Okay, you guys wanted to see me, even though I don't know why. I would not want to watch myself talking. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of something I've been working on for myself having to do with competition. So last December, wasn't that long ago, I went to the Classic, which is a big tournament down in Florida. I went with Zaina. Um, I took like 8 months off to retrain her because we just weren't working together as a team. Things weren't going the way I wanted. And she's not very seasoned because the pandemic and things have just not been working out so great for her. Anyway, went down there. And I just figured, okay, I just want to see how it goes. So first day, first class, first exercise, I made a handling error, which caused her to flunk the broad jump. Totally my fault. I know that for a fact. So why did that happen? Well, I second guessed myself. I thought about that for a few days and got really kind of annoyed with myself, not beating myself up for making a mistake per se, but why am I still not confident? Why am I second guessing myself? I shouldn't be doing that anymore. It's crazy. It made me think of a conversation I had recently with my mental management coach that I started working with a few months ago, which has helped tremendously. I think everyone should be working with a mental management coach. That's just my opinion. But back on task. So I forget what she asked me, but I basically told her that no, I never have confidence. Every time I win, I'm kind of I wouldn't even say shocked. I'm shocked and surprised, and I'm also relieved because there's some part of me that feels like sooner or later people are going to figure out that I'm just a big giant fraud and I really don't know what I'm doing and I'm really not a good trainer or a competitor. Now, intellectually, I understand, I can list the things that my dogs have done, the things they've accomplished, and I intellectually understand that, but I don't feel that. So the Classic was another example of that, where so for a few days I was thinking about what happened. I was just getting mad at myself, all right, this is ridiculous already. You need to fix this. This is something you need to work on and get over. The other thing that happened at the Classic is at the end of the day, when all the scores were tallied and I looked at her scores, if I had not flunked her on the broad jump, she would have won by a few points. And when I saw that again, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, how is that even possible? How could that even have happened? I couldn't even believe it, right? And so again, thinking about that, I was like, my goodness, when are you just going to start believing in yourself and believing in your training? This is something I really need to work on. So, how did I work on that? One of the things I did, which was recommended by Kathleen, who's my mental management coach, was to just really look at the evidence, right? Look back at what I've accomplished so far, and just repeat that over and over and really think about that and start incorporating that internally and feeling that. What also helped was my training partner said to me, he was kind of surprised when I told him, how I felt and how I was surprised. And he said to me that I trained to such a high standard that even if my dog is off that standard a bit, it's still better than the majority of other teams out there. Was his opinion. And so I thought about that, and I don't know, for some reason that resonated. So I kept reminding myself about that. And it's just something I really thought about a lot. So fast forward, I went to the regional in Tennessee this past weekend. Probably easily the most competitive regional I've been to. There was the reigning national champion, another competitor that had won a national with another dog in the past. There were a bunch of super competitive, really good other teams there. So normally the first thing I think is like, oh God, they're all better than me, that kind of stuff. And I just kept reminding myself that of, like what I've accomplished, what my training partner had said. And so I kept myself in a pretty good mental state. So I was pretty happy about that. First day, first 2 rings, Zaina was being a little bit of a naughty brat. Pretty much reverted to a couple of errors that cost us unnecessary points that she had done before I retrained her. So when that happened in the ring, I was pretty annoyed, but I'm super happy because I didn't let it show. I just trucked on. And fortunately I did, because it meant we didn't lose any additional half points, right? Because when that happens, you can kind of mentally just give up, right? And because in my head, as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh boy, that's like 2 or 3 points. I'm like, with competition this tight, that's going to knock us out, right? But I just kept focused. That's a skill I worked on really hard in the past. So I was pretty happy I did that. And same in utility. She was, fought me on the go out and went where she wanted instead of where I wanted. Little brat. Okay, so when I left there, in my head, at first, which is pretty typical of me, I was like, all right, well, that's it. You're definitely not winning. You're out of the hunt. She blew it. And I'm all frustrated and annoyed. And I'm like, I don't even know why she did it. I don't even know why it happened. So, I consciously did a few things. One is I told myself what's done is done. It doesn't matter. We're just going to keep going, doing the absolute very best we can, and we may still make it into the top 4. You don't really know until it's over. Dogs flunk a lot. Other dogs make mistakes. Keep your head in the game. When you're trying to figure out what your dog did wrong, it's super, super important not to be emotional about it. So I employed this technique that's been working really well for me. I pretended that I was one of my students. So therefore that kind of separates me emotionally. And I'm like, okay, just pretend it's not me. Look at the video. Look at what you did. Objectively assess, why did this happen? And then I also ran it by my training partner, and he agreed. So I worked on it in the parking lot, changed my handling for the next day, purposefully, right? And said, okay, I'm just going to go in there tomorrow, do the best I can. So I go in there, and she gets a 199.5 in both classes, right? So I was pretty thrilled with that. Had no idea what that meant for the overall. Figured I still was probably not in it. And that night somebody sends me, and look, she had jumped up to second place. So she was half a point behind the dog in front of her, and only half a point ahead of a couple other dogs. So it was super, super, super tight. Yes, she had worked really well for me, but she had seemed a little bit flat. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to, if I do the same thing tomorrow, I don't think she can hold up to that. So I went online and I looked up some 1 or 2 classic videos to see how I did the ring entrance and transitions. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I thought about how I warmed up at the classic, and I'm like, that's how I'm going to warm up. And of course, doubts start jumping in. Well, what if that's not right? Maybe you should do what you did today again. And I just said, nope, this is my plan. And that's it. Period on the story. It's either going to work or it doesn't. Either way, it is what it is. And I knew that on the 3rd day that scores were going to be important. It wasn't just qualifying, it was qualifying with scores. Now, what happens when you're under that much pressure is a lot of people have a tendency to put an enormous amount of pressure on their dogs. And that does not work for my dogs. Do I feel the temptation to do that? Yes, I'm human. But I developed discipline and a plan over the years that not to do that. So pretty much stuck to my plan. Went into open. She was a little twitchy. So I had to work really hard in the ring to hold her together. And it was a decent class. It wasn't our best class, but it was good enough. Ended up being enough to, I think, either keep us in a tie or either I caught up or I still half a point behind. I don't remember. But the main thing is, again, I came out of there and I was like, ugh, that class really needed to be just a tiny bit tighter if I'm going to win, right? Again, the temptation is there going into utility to put a little more pressure on the dog, like, hey, you better do it, kind of thing, right? But again, I reminded myself, just stick to the plan. Stick to the plan, stay focused, do our best, and that's it. Whatever happens, happens, right? So she gave me an unbelievably beautiful utility class, 199.5. I didn't know that score until, obviously, award. So pretty much utility was the deciding factor in determining who placed first, second, third, and fourth for all of us, because everybody was so close. And so when it all came out in a wash, she ended up ahead by half a point. So second place was half a point behind. Then I think third was only another half point behind. So it was super tight. So I am super excited because I am super proud of myself, which is something that is kind of rare. Because I felt like my overall confidence was better. I mean, it's still not perfect, still not where I want it to be. I felt like Zaina is not an easy dog, and we're not at that point yet together where we're an easy flowing team where I know exactly what to do every time. We're just like I was with, like, let's say Zeal, right? The last few years of his career. We'll get there. So I fought for every half point. I had to work super hard. I really had to hold my head together. It was super fun, super exciting. And I was obviously I was thrilled to win, but even if I hadn't won, I would have been really happy with the fact that I held up my end. So happy, in fact, that last night, after I got home, I sat down and said, I'm going to have a glass of wine, which led to 2, and then maybe 3. There is 1 empty bottle. I may have cut into another one. I don't remember going to bed. Did not set my alarm. Woke up late. Almost missed Zesty's vet appointment for his neuter surgery, not just for some little exam. And had a little bit of a hangover. And it's been a really long time since I've done that. Yeah, so I just wanted to celebrate with everybody, and I wanted to say that being on this group inspires me, it motivates me, and encourages me, and pushes me. So thank you to all of you for that. I'm sure people will ask. My mental management coach is Kathleen Oswald. Agility and Beyond is her website. She does one-on-one coaching. She's very experienced. She started competing when she was really young in agility. She's been on world teams. Super smart girl, super nice girl. Really, really awesome. All right, that's it. I'm out.